Man. A couple years ago, so background on what this video is about. I went to school for international politics and philosophy. And I remember when I was studying that, and going to a liberal school is very annoying. I'm just going to say that it's very annoying because you run into people who have these ideas about reality about the world that just to me are not rooted in any kind of reality, or like a lack of awareness. And that's not to say that I'm perfect and I understand the world better than everybody, but I think I've been very logical and asked a lot of questions. I'm not perfect at it, but I think I did that very well when I was in school and kind of like just analyzing what's really going on. And I remember just going through school and hearing how, personal opinion, I think the modern day college experience like coaches you to kind of like hate America and feel like you're a victim. That's my experience. When I hear people in college online talk, that's kind of how they sound. Like they all like, America's wicked. This is a colonizer nation. This is racist. This is all whatever, all this stuff. And regardless of whether or not all that stuff is true, the question that we always have to come back to is, if all of what you're saying is true, how do we fix it? Like, what practicals do we need to actually fix our society? And when I asked myself that question, I didn't ask it because of my philosophy. Actually, I just gave it away. I didn't ask it because of my politics classes. I asked it because of my philosophy classes. And I started to ask myself, I was like, America's going through an identity crisis because America we want America to be better than it is, but we can't get over the past of who America was. And so the more I started to examine that, when I studied abroad, I came to this conclusion. I was like, for America to be a better country, America's going to have to fall really, really bad. Like, it's going to hurt. And I started to kind of try and imagine like what that's going to look like. And I couldn't quite see it, but I knew it was going to be very, very scary. And I asked myself, I was like, do I want to live in America when it has to go through that reckoning? And I think at that point, I'm like 21 when I asked myself that question, and I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't want to do that. I don't want no parts in that. No. And then the older I got, so I would say from 21 until maybe 25 or 26. I'm 27 now. I'll be 28 this year. The more I watched like what we were doing as a culture and a society. If you saw my other video, I mentioned, I was like, America is a bunch of like mini countries united by some principles and some guidelines, some values and some beliefs, but we're all fundamentally different countries with different cultures. But there's like a certain spirit of American culture that unifies us, which is exemplified in our values. But overall, I started to see that begin to erode with just this sense of self-hatred for where we've been and what it took to create America. And I kind of realized, I was like, I'm okay with the fall. It's a necessity at this point. It's a necessity at this point. And just over between that age, I started to make more and more, just started to chip away at my resilience, like my resistance to the idea that the country's gonna like fall to crap. Because I kind of just saw it as necessary. I was like, and I've always stood by this narrative that, what's a narrative? Is it a theory? I don't know. Words. Words are big. Words are important. Is countries are just people. And literally, I mean, of course, if someone's gonna be like, that's dumb. Of course, they're just people. Yeah, but think of like your country's culture is a reflection of the people who live there. Like the spirit, the energy, the identity is a reflection of the people who live there. So when people say stuff like America's a racist country, okay, then the people there are racist. Like that's what you just said. That's what you just said. Like, okay, it's not like this external entity that is away from us. It is something that is within us that we are living, breathing, and moving in. And I thought about that. And I've always said that like countries are just like people. And what I used to think about America is like, America's like that bad toddler, that toddler that just be throwing tantrums. And then when you leave them with like other toddlers, like they want to fight and bully everybody. and you're just like, yo, somebody, like, who's, like, where's your parent? Like, you're annoyed, right? Like, that's how I used to look at America. And I'm not gonna actually, I have not analyzed if I still see America that way. Well, I guess not. I'm looking at America through a personal development lens. And one thing I've experienced, I've observed with my own personal development journey, is everyone talks about self-care and all these different things. And that was very popular during the pandemic. And I hope it continues to be popular going forward. Is self-care and personal development is ugly. It's a very ugly process. And it's that moment where you look in the mirror and you realize I'm the problem. I've been participating in behaviors that are so flippin' destructive. I am the freaking problem. And I have to stop. I have to be corrected. I have to get right. I have to discipline myself. I have to, like, throw some stuff away. I'm the problem. My habits are the reason I am the way I am and I am where I am. And I have to go to war with the most unsavory parts of myself, the parts of myself I don't like. And it's gonna hurt. That's like, I remember there was a time where I kept seeing that people were like, don't let people make you think like self-care and personal development is all rainbows and butterflies. There's some seasons of crying because there are parts of yourself that you realize are destructive and are ruining your life. And cleaning those parts of yourself up hurt. And it's a battle every day. And why am I mentioning this? Is as I say that America and all countries are just people. America's going through, like I said, they're going through an identity crisis. I think that's the first stage of like personal development. You go through an identity crisis. You realize, I don't know who I am, what I'm doing, and why I'm doing it. Because I'm on the road somewhere I don't want to go. And I think that for me, I saw that in America in 2017. I was like, America's going through an identity crisis. I don't know what people are doing anymore. None of this makes sense. People don't have strong community ties anymore. And we're all starting to see it in the increase in mental health issues, because community makes us better. It helps us feel whole. It helps us feel seen. It helps us develop. And when we don't have it, we fall apart. Like, your community is supposed to challenge you to grow and to refine those parts of yourselves that are underdeveloped, or they're ugly and they're inappropriate and they're not helpful. It's supposed to do all of those things. And I look back and I remember thinking that globalization is a problem. It's a problem for the human psyche. The world is now too big for you. You don't have a place right here where you are. And so I think that brought on there are a lot of things that we could talk about brought it on. But one of the things I think brought it on was the globalization mindset. Was like, we're part of a global identity and a global community. And it's like, that sounds cute and cool, but where does the individual small person fit into that? Where's their community? How do they build one right where they are? And I think a part of globalization is we allowed the government to take the role of so many other spaces that communities are supposed to do. Just like refining our character, defining our values, building relationships, helping where people need help, like helping the needy. That is not a job of the government. Like, I'm sorry, we've seen it. When the government starts to hand you stuff, you can't trust them, because they always. I don't know if you've ever heard. If you watch this, have you ever heard someone who's like, they hide their hand, or they play with one hand hidden behind their back? Like, there's always a catch, and it's a really bad one. And so I think when we became a society that enabled and normalized leaning on the government so much, we stopped leaning on each other. And so we let each other just like fall to chaos, and then began to hate each other when we weren't enabling each other's chaos, because we weren't willing to deal with the friction of getting better as individuals. And so we as people, as Americans, began to go through an identity crisis. And then we as America started to see the identity crisis of America as a whole. And now we're in the ugly personal development phase, where like we start looking and we're like, I'm the problem. We have to clean up. We have to clean up and remember, like, your government, their role is only but so big. We have to be community to each other every day. Like, we should be looking after the poorest people among us. We should be looking after the women and we should be looking after the women and the children. Yes, there should be legislation to protect women. Yes, there should be legislation to protect children. Yes, there should be legislation to protect men. I 100% agree with that, but there needs to be a certain character and psychological identity about the people who live here that says this is the standard, this is the boundary of what is and isn't appropriate, and we're not going to stand for anything less. And so every time when people try to provide us with less, we try to legislate it and force people's hand instead of calling people to better character. I'm not going to go on that tangent. I'm not going to go on that tangent because that's not what this video is about. But I feel like that's where we are right now, is we're going through the ugly personal development phase. And so I say all that to say that this is a call out and a call up to all of us, to myself included. Be ready to be a community and be neighborly, like truly neighborly to everyone, because it's about to get really ugly outside. It's already kind of ugly, but it's going to be very, very, very ugly outside. And I can't tell you, with the work I do, how many times I've run into people who are in their early 20s and they're like, I just feel like I need to grow up. And I'm like, yeah, we all do. I think we thought everything was okay, and we thought that, you know, almost like I heard people on social media like complaining about the way America was, and I'm like, have you ever imagined what it would look like and what it would take for us to be better? You don't just magically turn around and become better. You have to go to war with the old version of yourself and refine that person to become better. Or let's not say go to war. You have to go through intensive training to become better. And training requires refinement. People, I've always heard the analogy of like gold. How does gold become purified? It goes through fire. It goes through fire, and all the impurities are lifted to the top, and then they're scraped off, and then it goes into the fire again. And you know, that's kind of where we are. And I don't know. I think I like I said, I don't know what this channel is for anymore. I know I'm gonna document my finances, but I think that I'm gonna document how do I participate in being a better citizen and a better member of community where I am, because I observe people all the time. I've met a lot of interesting people and that need help, and I try to help as best as I can. But a part of, for me, just being transparent, for me, a part of being in community with people is recognizing, like, I don't have all the answers, so I have to go find them and go find people who do have resources, because everyone around you is a resource for something. And I think when I remember learning in college about the death of collective action. Like, this is what it's going to take for the rebirth of collective action, is to realize, like, the government can't solve all your problems, and they were never supposed to. In the earliest stages of America, our government is just really way too big. Like, the chaos that is being experienced by people is because our government is way too flipping big. Because we as the people are supposed to be way more solid than this together. And I think we've enabled our government becoming big because we thought they could fill in the gaps, and they can't. We are so much more valuable and so much more capable if we are forced to have those hard conversations and hard experiences with each other and grow together. And then when the government acts up and does weird stuff, we have the unity and the capacity to really war with each other first, so we can go to war with them and make sure that they don't act up. So yeah, this is just a call out to be prepared to be in community with people, unlikely people, like unlikely individuals. Be prepared to be in community with those people, and to compromise, and to start solving more problems. Last thing, I think a lot of people over the past couple of years really wanted something to fight for. Like, I think people want, like, they sought purpose. A great book to read is On the Road to Freedom. It talks about, like, it's the moral case for capitalism. But one of the things it talks about, he talks about, like, why the 9-to-5 scared people. Because it scared people because now they had stability of income and they didn't really know what there was to fight for anymore. And I think that that's just a part of the natural human experience, is we want something to fight for. And when we offload so much responsibility to the government and we stop being in community with each other, we start manufacturing reasons to fight about stuff, which is what I think the last at least 6 to 7 years was about. People just making up stuff to fight for that really, look, I'm showing y'all a lot of how I think. I really think people are just making up stuff to fight for. But just be prepared. Be prepared to be in community with each other. Be prepared to really have to face some ugly parts of yourselves, ugly parts of our society, and pay attention. Pay attention, because everything is not what it seems. You're going to hear stuff that you're not going to want to accept as reality. It is. You're going to hear stuff that is a lie. It is so clearly a lie. It's like, it's abrasively clear that that's a lie. And I'm scared and excited because I believe that we'll be better for it. We'll be more faithful people, regardless of what your faith is. Yeah, we'll be better people for the other side of this. If you haven't checked it out, there's this clip. I think I'm gonna link it below. There's this clip where Tony Robbins talks about life happening in seasons. Definitely check it out. It is 100% accurate. If you look through history, it is so accurate. And I made this video because I was flipping out. I was like standing on the street corner trying to catch a bus to my office, and I was freaking out. And it just leveled me. The video did not level me. The realization that we have to be better communities leveled me. And that's the call as people of faith, is to be better in community with other people and to really love your neighbor. And that's really what we have to do in seasons like this. But Tony Robbins has this amazing clip where he talks about, like, pay attention to patterns. Pay attention, because things don't, like, people don't change. The world goes through seasons. Society goes through seasons. And when you understand, like, the seasons of humanity, you kind of, like, mellow out and can, like, brace yourself for things. And he talks about, like, what winter is. But I'm going to link it in this video. Definitely take a look at it just for a perspective, because I don't actually know when I'm going to post this. Today, as many of you know, today's January 30th. And so, you know, a bunch of executive orders have come out, and it's just been a very challenging time here, just everywhere, as we all know. But I am optimistic. It's going to hurt, but as a person who's gone on their own personal development journey and is still going through one, the seasons where it hurts and where it's dark and it's ugly, you become, on the other side, you're grateful for those seasons, because that's where that's where, like, it's like the tilling of the ground to really plant something beautiful happens. It's arduous work, and it's hard, and it's uncomfortable, and it's the ripping and the tearing up of the ground. That's kind of the season I think America's in right now, is like everything we have must be torn up so something new can actually be rebuilt. And that season sucks. It sucks. I, for a brief moment, was looking back on that season like, dang, for my personal life, like, with disappointment. And it was only like within the past literally 72 hours, someone was like, don't look at that season in disappointment, because I feel like I didn't accomplish much. They're like, don't look at that season as disappointment. Look at that season as for what it was used for, which was the new foundation had to be built for you to start growing. And right now we're going, like, the old foundation of America, I think, is being torn up, and it's gonna hurt. It's really gonna hurt. So, see you through it. Not on the other side. See you through it. Peace.